Ladies and gentlemen, now with us, all the way from the sunny shores of Greece, is Joey Rositano, an independent researcher and a former longtime resident of Jeju Island who has produced Jeju Island Henyo, a user's manual, which is a book that's available now, I believe, right? Is that correct, Joey? People can still get that?
Yeah, that's right.
And he's also got a photography book out called Spirits that also accompanies a documentary by the same name, which is about Jamin. What's wrong with me? Who's Jamin?
Yeah, this is we're struggling with this intro.
Rhymes with shamanism.
Yeah.
Shaman and Jamin. Excellent. So it's about the book and the documentary about Jeju shamanism, which Joey's an expert on.
Yeah. And so thank you for being with us. You're in Greece. I'm in Jeju and Sagipo. Alexis is in Jeju-shi, not to divulge your secret location. But again, thank you for being with us. How are you?
Yeah,
How
thanks,
is
Joey?
Greece?
I'm good. I'm in this beautiful city called Ioannina, and that's a lot of vowels to start out a name with. The locals call it Yanina, and it's a beautiful mountain city in northern Greece. There's a big lake in the middle of the city, quite a large lake, and there's mountains surrounding the city on all sides.
That sounds.
And I'm doing
it's nice.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
So what are you doing there? Except for it's not. It's hot.
It's very hot. Yeah, it's a bit off the beaten track, and I take it that it's actually not supposed to be hot here, but it's a weird summer. There's all these fires in Greece, and global warming or whatever is the cause. It's been steaming. Yeah.
Right. So
Joey, why'd you pick that town in Greece? Was it purposeful?
By, I am following a team of archaeologists for my new book. And it's near the archaeological sites that these people work on. So that's why I chose here. Yeah.
Oh, very
You're always
cool.
a cool guy. You're always cool.
How long have you been there for then?
It's been 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, something like that.
Okay, very cool. And how long do you plan to be there for?
I'm leaving tomorrow, actually.
Oh.
So this is kind of the end. Yeah.
Are you coming back to the island?
I've been on my way back to Jeju for about a year.
In this really weird route.
Yeah. So there's a chance that I'll fly back to Jeju in a few days. Or to Seoul to do the quarantine. Yeah. There's a chance that I will be in the UK, and there's a chance that I might stay here. So it's really kind of up in the air.
Just see what happens.
Yeah. COVID,
man, is messing with all of us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get into why we'd like to speak to you today, which is about Jeju shamanism, which is probably how we first kind of came into contact too many years ago. So I don't think a lot of our listeners, or maybe even a lot of people on Jeju, know that Jeju has its own religion, its own shamanism. Can you explain a little bit to start off with, what is it? What is Jeju shamanism?
Right, yeah. So I always think, like, if there was someone who was like a Hindu and they came to Jeju Island, they would be able to understand shamanism within 15 minutes of being there. If you had to describe the religion to them. If someone was Catholic, it might take a year. And if someone is Protestant, it might take a couple years or longer, depending on how open-minded they are. But so why I say Hinduism, it's a polytheism that is common in all the Asian and European countries. So Jeju Island's religion, shamanism, is a type of shamanism that's specific only to Jeju, but it's related to all of the shamanic practices in the surrounding countries like Shintoism in Japan, and the ancient religions of China, and down into India and across Eurasia.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
okay.
So, and this is the religion of 18,000 gods, is it not?
That's right. That's something that has been said about Jeju shamanism, but that actually refers to the descendants of a particular god who has, been said through the generations to have had 18,000 descendants. But it's not meant to be a specific number of Jeju gods. It's another way of saying many.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find these numbers in other religions too.
Right.
88,000 jinns or something like that. What it really means is many gods.
Mm-hmm. So what is it? Can you go through some of the stories, explain to us how the practice works?
Yes. So with Jeju Island shamanism, I like to describe it as there are. Okay, so there's a pantheon with many gods, obviously. Okay. And there's kind of three levels of gods. There's the higher gods that could be kind of considered almost like Old Testament gods. They're kind of like the gods that were here before humans came into existence, or that have to do with like, early human life. And they're kind of like the primordial gods, like the earth goddess or the sky god or the god of the sea, this type of thing. The goddess,
the creation
of fate.
Gods. Yeah.
The creation gods. Yeah. Then in the middle, there are shrine gods, and there are shrines all around Jeju Island that can be found in every village that all of us have seen, passing through the villages and on hikes or exploring. And in those shrines live the gods that protect each village on Jeju Island. And each village can have 2 or 3, even up to 5 or 7 shrines within each village, and different gods live in each shrine that have different functions. One god might be there to do the accounting for the people who die in the village, and to report to the sky god and up the echelon of gods, to give notice that the spirit in that village needs to be taken away, by the Jeju Grim Reaper and other gods like that. Another shrine in a village might be to help in childbirth. Another shrine in the village might be aimed towards, skin disease or eye disease or other types of diseases like that.
Can you have as many shrines as you want in a village? Like, is it just up to the village what they're going to do? Or is there like a limit to these shrines?
Well, the shrines are, they're historical. Their founding corresponds to different miraculous events that happened in the village.
Okay.
So, for example, a place like Hamdok might have like 12 different shrines. It's always been a big village with many neighborhoods, and there's lots of legends about that place.
Okay.
And there's just the population needed more shrines to service all of the people who live there.
So you get as many shrines as miracles or something special has occurred in that village.
Yeah, there could be, but it would have to pass kind of a litmus test to to pass into the shamanic lore. So a shaman would have to pay attention to the shrine and would have to recognize the god and add the god into the pantheon and start telling a myth about that god. But the idea of a new shrine coming into existence could be something that only happens once every 100 years or more than that. It's very rare. It's a very rare circumstance.
I was under the impression that these shrines sort of tell the story of the town, right? Like you would have one that would be in a Henyo village, and that one of those shrines would be, or the god at that shrine would have to do with like protecting people at sea and that kind of stuff. Right. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So all of the village's lore, including, so let's talk about the types of myths, but all of the myths and histories of the village that are oral histories, oral myths memorized by the townspeople and the shaman are contained within the shrine. They're not physically there, but in a way they're physically there, because when people visit the shrine, they think about those histories, and the shamans, when they go there, they recite those histories and they recite the myths, and people in the village are exposed to their mythology, which is like their village identity, in these ceremonies that take place at the shrines. Which some of the things that they're saying are myth, and other things are historical facts, and sometimes there's gray areas between, but usually not. Usually what is myth and what pertains to religion that's inside of the shamanic chants is designated as myth, and the other part is designated as village history. So these are the center of the villages, and they contain the village identity within there, the village founding, the village history, and they usually pertain to the ancestry of the village as well.
Everything, just your ability to hold all that knowledge in is fascinating. But you know what, while you're talking about that, I was thinking about how you have such like this storage in your head, but then it reminded me of a story you told me, or you just told me this a long time ago, about how the one shaman for the village has to start training so young, because what you were just talking about, that's all done by memory, if I remember that correct. Is that right, Joey? That's crazy.
It's almost ununderstandable.
Right.
Because each shaman has to memorize about 30 hours of myths.
Wow.
And these aren't just the myths of their island. It's one religion, you know. So it's not just the myths of their village. It's also the myths of the whole island.
Okay.
So it's about 30 hours of material, but then there's the extra material that I'm specifically interested in. And that's the type of material that was added later, that came from people's personal experiences in the village. And those are also like miracles that happened at the shrine, or things to do with the massacres, things to do with the war, other things that are attached to the shrine that aren't necessarily inside of the myths. Okay. The shamans know all of that as well. So it's
unbelievable.
And it's all oral. It's an oral tradition, right? Like these.
It's an oral tradition.
Crazy.
Yep.
So tell me if I'm wrong about this. It's been a while since I read this or I looked it up. To become one of these shaman, it's that you have to find like a tool or something in the forest, in the field, and if you find this tool, then like, oh, you're destined to be a shaman. Now you got to become a shaman. I'm trying to remember what the tool was, or what am I correct in that?
I thought it was handed down.
That's an interesting story, because something like that did happen to Grandma O in Sewa village, who passed away a couple years ago. She was Jeju's oldest shaman, and she was not from a shamanic lineage. Mm-hmm. She did indeed walk into a field, and she met, I don't know that she found a tool, but she met the former shaman of the village in the field, and he told her, "You're the one." And she started training.
Wow.
At 35 years old, which is really, really old to do such a thing.
Be careful when you go for walks in Jeju.
Yes, exactly. Wait. I have a question. Did she literally meet a human, or she met the ghost of the...
No, she met a human.
I just wanted to clear that up. Okay.
The head shaman in the village didn't have, because of the massacres and the war and displacement and all that, they didn't have a protege to come up. So
he was on the hunt. He was looking.
He was on the hunt. Yeah, but she did it, and it's a wild thing to do at such an advanced age.
Right.
That's crazy.
And did she later in her years? Because you are, and if anyone reads your books, they'll come to know. But you actually became really good friends with a lot of the shamans around the village. Did she ever complain about this gift she was given?
No, because Grandma O, this lady, she was her personality. She used to be the prettiest girl in the village when she was younger.
Okay.
And she's very popular, and everybody there, the Haenyeo, everybody loved her. In fact, they wouldn't let her retire. She was 94 and still doing shamanic ceremonies. And she really gloated. She gloated about the attention. And every time I went to her house, she showed it off to the whole village. He's come here to interview me. He's come, And in her case. Now, other shamans, yes, they feel cursed. Some shamans don't like the fact that they have to recite 3-hour-long myths. It's a burden.
Yes. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Okay. That is funny. See, and this is why, Joey, this is just gonna be like the first of our interviews with you, because I swear the next time we interview, I just want to like hear these stories, like 3 crazy stories. But
sure.
I just imagine walking down I'm taking, going to work, or, picking strawberries. You're the one. Yeah, taking the trash out. You're there. You're the one. What do you mean I'm the one?
All right. It's intense. And you're also obligated for all the ceremonies, like to be a shaman, all the ceremonies, but you're also, I don't know, Joey, if I'm going to use the right word, the healer of the village, or you're in charge of praying for the healing? I mean, so you're called for everything.
Shamanism is all about healing. You know, the shaman, they're really shamanic priests. They're the same as a village priest in Europe. You know, they have to preside over funerals, over births, birth blessings, you know,
moving into new homes,
different events in the village. I mean, and you know, one thing that they do that they kind of split the responsibilities with the Buddhist monks in the villages is kind of psychological counseling and psychological rituals that they do with people who are afflicted either emotionally or physically in the villages. And this isn't like someone breaks their leg and they go to a shaman. It's not like that. I mean, they're fully incorporated into modern medicine. Jeju shamans, traditional Jeju shamans. I don't know about the fortune tellers in the rest of Korea, but they have a responsibility, especially for the psychological and emotional well-being of the people who visit them for rituals. So it's very much the tone of like of a priest in Ireland or something, like a village priest.
Yeah, it's there for everything. There's a little
bit more mystery around it with like possession and ghosts and stuff. But then again, there is in Catholicism too, and in places like Wales or Ireland, or
Saints,
you know, it's very similar in many ways in tone to that.
Joey, you mentioned Daryl. Joey, you mentioned fortune tellers, but I always assumed, are you talking about like someone I could go to get my numbers right? I always assumed they were the shaman.
Yeah, like, Jeju has its own system of fortune telling, which is really interesting, and we could talk about that for an hour.
It's
separate from like the corner shop with the flags on the pole and everything. Now those type of shamans, a lot of them are doing probably with Korea's lack of like counseling services. They're probably doing a needed, you know, type of you know, they're doing something that plays a role in the society for sure.
It's a fascinating
There's a lot of room for corruption there.
Yeah. Right.
That's a fascinating point to talk about the role they actually play, not just as priests, but also as like psychological support, especially for a place like Jeju that has experienced so much hardship. Now, I'm curious, do you know how many practitioners there are?
Of Jeju shaman.
Yeah,
I believe there are around 60 left. I think 60 individuals.
60 believers or 60 like people who are
60 shamans.
60 shamans. But how many how many believers are there? How many people?
Good question. It's hard to say, Daryl, because there's overlap with Buddhism and Jeju Buddhism and Jeju shamanism is mixed together. So, you know, and then the Catholics on Jeju, do they practice shamanism? Often they do, you know.
Yes, they definitely,
yeah. So it's hard to say, but I guess most of the rural people, so whatever the rural population is of Jeju, plus some of the people who have been transplanted into the cities still visit their home villages.
To do that,
so it's hard to say. I imagine it would be approximately the number of elderly people on the island.
Right, because that was a leading question to get to the next one, which is that the religion is, like so much on the island, dying. Is it not?
Yeah, it is. Okay, so it's changing as well. It's not only dying, it's changing. For example, when I was doing research, sometimes I met families who had young children who came to the countryside to have a ritual done by their parents' shaman, by their parents' village's shaman. And that shaman would do, you know, a day-long ritual dedicated to Myeongjin grandmother, which is like the kind of highest grandmother goddess figure in Jeju, and she heals children and is responsible for childbirth. And the people from the city would respond emotionally to the ritual, which is very intense, a lot of dancing, a lot of like intense things happening as far as like the shamans pushing them to open up emotionally, you know, and expressively. But the people who came in from the city, they wouldn't really know what was happening in the ritual. They wouldn't really know, you know, which gods were being called or what the process was. So you've got a situation where some people from the younger generations participate, but they don't really know what's fully going on.
What's going on? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's true, and not just of Jeju's religion. I'm assuming
well,
even
any religion.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. There are new shamans. There are 4 or 5 young shamans that are apprenticing. So,
very cool.
I was just about to ask that. Is that something that's still happening then?
Oh
But
yeah,
not on a level that it should be.
And you'd be very entertained that a lot of these shamans will listen to recordings on MP3s or on their phone. I mean, they're learning in a different way, you know, how to memorize the myths and whatnot.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that, to be honest with you. A lot of people have these weird ideas or these Western ideas that just because they're a shaman or monks or whatever, or Amish or what have you, they have to be like technologically deprived or something like that. But no, like they have the latest iPhones too, just like anybody else.
Yeah, they all do. Everybody does, you know. Yeah.
Now, do you have any stories about when you were researching about trying to find some of these shrines that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I you know, when I first started you know, going to the shrine rituals, I would just kind of show up on my own, you know, at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. before the sun came up. And yeah, it was really exhilarating and really mysterious, a little bit like frightening. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then, you know, people there kind of embraced me, and I started visiting everybody in the village and kind of learning everybody's stories. And it became more normalized for me over time. You know, like I feel like I can see the religion from the inside more. But in the early days, I mean, yeah, it was pretty wild. I remember I went to this one place. There are 2 Grandma O shamans, but the other Grandma O shaman from Hado village, I went to visit her shrine. That was the first ceremony I went to. And it was early in the morning. And inside the shrine, it was so dark, you could barely see anything. There was just candlelight. And there were all these old ladies sitting around. And I realized every single person in there was about blind. And they couldn't see that I was a foreign person, you know. So the ceremony had started. And finally, a younger woman comes in, like probably mid-40s or something. And she said, "Hey, where are you from? What are you doing here?" And instead of saying, "I want to take a photograph of the altar," I said, "I want to take a photograph of the eggs," right? Keran instead of Keran, right? Yeah. And the whole place went crazy, and they laughed. And then Grandma O, the shaman who I knew, she said, "Oh, that American has come." Okay, you know. But I went to visit her. A lot. I mean, So it started out very mystical, and then it became more normal for me over time.
Well, when you're talking about like how it just became part of your life, I actually remember being with you like the nights before you would go out, and you would be like avoiding pork, or you would not be drinking, or I can't say exactly, but there would be times because you were going to go visit the place, the special place, so you wouldn't do certain things the night before to make sure you were pure and clean, right?
That's right. Don't mess around with taboos. Don't mess around with taboos. Like it whether you believe in kind of spiritual things or not, it just seems like a bad idea. Yeah. So I would abstain from whatever taboos that the villages had. Yeah. It really became a part of your life. It was just a very normal. It was just like, oh, I'm tomorrow, and no one, you know, Joey would be like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to this ceremony. Everyone would be like, cool, because we all knew we were like, all right, cool. That's what he does. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, when I visit the shrines and things like that, I have a feeling, you know, that comes. I have like a spiritual feeling just because I've heard all the songs and talk with the people so much that I get a bit of that, you know, I get a bit of like the emotion attached to it.
Yeah. Now, as we get to the closer to the end of the interview, I'm curious about why shamanism. Like, why did you decide? What was it about that you decided to throw yourself into it?
Yeah, I studied anthropology in school, which probably has something to do with my ability to get in there and kind of do the work. And but as far as like getting turned on to shamanism, it was really random. I'll say the story quickly, but I was in Sicheng in City Hall, downtown Jeju City, and there was a bar that I would go to often. And in the bar, there were 3 or 4 people who had graduated film school in Seoul, but they had never made a film. And so we started talking, and I said, hey, you guys should make a film. You should make a film. And we decided to do a film about grandma stories, just interesting stories that old Jeju grandmas would tell.
I remember that.
Yeah, we started doing that film, and then during that filming process, I kind of transitioned to shamanism because I saw it firsthand, and it became interesting to me.
Okay.
So where can, if people want to learn more about shamanism, where can they go, Joey?
They can go to pagansweare.com, which is my blog. It's mostly content about Jeju Island. My photo book is available on Gumroad. It's called Spirits, the Story of Jeju Island Shamanic Shrines. And they could search by my name as well and find it that way. And
we'll
then they
links,
can, they can watch the film as well. So if you want to get really into it, go to the blog.
Yeah, I would highly suggest people go to the blog. It's high quality, lots of good stuff. There are lots of great photos too. And we'll link to it like Alexis said. And where can, if people want to get a hold of you, where can they get a hold of you? If they want to
they can message me through the blog. I think the email is there. Perfect. So pagansweare.com, and then just
I'm just curious, like if people wanted to stalk you, where could they go, Joey?
I have Instagram too. It's on Instagram. There's pagansweare. If you want to stalk me, you can come to Ioannina, Greece. So.
All right. I'm there.
Thank you, Joey. It's been great talking to you. This has been really, really interesting.
So nice to see your face.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys too.
Yeah.
It's been too long.
Yeah, we'll have you on again. And
start picking your stories. Start picking the crazy stories, please.
Yeah. Put them in a file.
Yeah. I'll put out a few, and
good.
Yeah. There's plenty of this stuff.
I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah.
Awesome. Safe flight tomorrow, wherever you end up going,
or not.
Or not.
Right. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
All right. Perfect. Thanks again. It was good talking to you.
Thanks, Joey. Ciao.
Thanks, guys.